Welcome back to NatChat. I'm Barney. I'm here today with John Beecroft. We're learning a lot about the financial world. John is himself CEO of a company, as we introduced before, but the interesting thing about what John's doing is he's actually sort of coming down to the base level of people like you and I, low and middle income earners, and addressing their needs and what they can do, am I not wrong, John, for themselves?
Yeah. Barney, there's a lot of things people can do, and the crisis affects people in many different ways. The fundamental way is that money's not available.
Yes.
It's not available for business to invest, it's not available for people to buy houses, etc. The other thing is, as people start to lose their jobs, which unfortunately they probably will, they lose income. What people need to do is look at their individual situation and say, okay, this is what's really happening today. What can I do? What are the practical things I can do? And if you step through it from the individual who's working, the individual who's working can look at their situation, they can do a budget, they can look at what opportunity there is to increase their income and what opportunity there is to reduce their costs.
Yes.
And look at the structure. Often people find themselves caught in a high cost structure.
Yes.
If you're renting, it might make sense to move closer to where you work and reduce your petrol costs.
Yep.
Very simple things like that. For example, if you're working, don't take holidays. Now that's probably not good for the economy, but what it does is it builds you up a reserve in case you do lose your job.
Yes, okay.
If you've got 5 weeks pay up your sleeve,
yes,
you can do that.
Yes.
If you're an investor,
Yep.
you're going to be very concerned about the share market having fallen as much as it has.
Oh, yes.
You can look at your portfolio. There's classic places to put your funds into
Yes.
when the markets are really bad.
Yes.
And you should also remember it's probably one of the better times to buy. I'm not saying immediately, but certainly, you know, there's averaging practices where people can actually buy at lower costs and benefit in the long term. Gold is a traditional hedge. We've seen gold prices sort of skyrocket.
Yes, we certainly
and
have.
gold companies doing very well in the recent reports.
Yep.
The other areas that generally people go to are beer, chocolate,
Right.
and services that are not really affected by the economy.
Yes.
Things like pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
One company, for example, CSL, which provides a lot of products, blood products and related things, they've done very well through the downturn.
Yep.
So you can look at rebalancing your portfolio.
Pawnbrokers.
They're doing extremely well.
Yes, apparently so. Okay, and this is in England, the United States, and probably probably in Australia as well.
Yeah. They're the things that investors can do.
Yep.
They obviously look for high yield investments where there's low risk. If you're a pensioner, you'll be trapped by the lower interest rate. Obviously you'll be looking to see if you can change that, but be very careful because the high interest rates could be a trap. Other than that, in businesses, if you're in a business and you're finding it difficult to get funds, you should look at your working capital.
Yes.
You'll have stocks, you'll have debtors, you'll have creditors.
Yep.
You might be able to do deals with the suppliers to get consignment stocks.
Yes.
You should look at whether or not there are product lines that you can eliminate. You start to restructure your business for a new environment. They're the sort of things that people can do and will do.
John, in Melbourne, say in particular, in the last, well, we'd say 10 years, there has been a ballooning of property prices. We might say a fairly unrealistic ballooning, which is, we could say, has certainly been pumped up by the industry itself. Although, of course, supply and demand, and there's a number of issues involved here. What do you say to those people who are trying to enter the property market, not necessarily as investors, but simply as homeowners, and are finding that in those middle and outer reaches, the prices have risen in a way that you would expect inner city prices to rise? Would you say to people, wait till they drop? Would you say, enter at any cost? What would be your advice there? Because this is where people are getting into trouble, aren't they?
I mean,
they're getting into trouble.
People are getting into trouble
because the prices are very high as well. You can go out to Horsham and buy a place for $40,000, but that's not living in Melbourne. No. Once, South Yarra was always an expensive place to buy. Eaglemont, in terms of those kinds of suburbs. But then we're starting to see things like Preston, Reservoir, areas which really aren't you know, should never have reached sort of 500,000.
Yeah.
You know, and is it important for people to keep entering that market?
Yeah, ultimately, the benefit of buying your house is that you peg your debt and gradually your house price goes up over time.
Yes.
The important thing is that you buy for the right reasons. You buy where you want to live because you want to live there. It's close to your work, it's close to your family, it's close to your friends.
First and foremost, you believe? Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
There are some opportunities at the moment because
Yes.
interest rates have dropped substantially.
Yes.
And I have seen in the last 2 months interest rates, fixed interest rates at
Yep.
5%
Yep.
for housing loans. Probably a good time to look at whether you fix part of your loan, say half your loan, fix it, and have half as floating. To buy a house, probably the sort of outer suburbs still offer a bit of value.
Yes.
Some of the new
Yep.
developments, if you are looking to get the first homeowners grant,
Yes.
both the state government and the federal government,
Yes.
and you have enough deposit. But the
Yes.
really important thing is not to totally overcommit yourself.
Yes.
That's the disaster.
Tell me.
Don't borrow a personal loan to get a deposit.
Yeah, right.
One of the
Have your
biggest-
deposits. Do
Yeah.
everything, even if you have to wait till you're 40.
And do your homework.
Do your homework.
You should define what you want in a house.
Yes.
You know, how many bedrooms,
Yes.
etc. Car spaces,
Yes.
location,
Yep.
and go and look for probably 9 to 12 months.
Yes.
And then you'll get the value in your own mind. Once you've got the value in your own mind, hopefully you will have saved enough deposit
Yes.
and get the first homeowners grant and move.
Yeah. John, we've got to go on a break there, and we'll be back for one more segment, of which we are going to, well, we're going to have some fun and have a look at, well, the way the world is made up and why we are made of money or not. Back with NatChat.